Welcome to the Strathaven High School Secondary Return to In-Person Learning Information Session. This presentation has been designed to provide more clarity for the potential return to full in-person learning at the high school. In anticipation of your questions, the deadline for submission of the commitment form has been extended to 11:59 on Wednesday, March 3rd. Frequently asked questions will continually be revised and communicated using the district website reopening page under frequently asked questions. In addition, there's a submission form on that web page where you can enter questions that will be updated on the FAQ page. Because secondary students are young adults, their physical stature is often of a full adult. As a result, maintaining physical distancing is more complex, and for this reason, we will use our experiences with the other cohorts of students to determine the best time for their return. This will not take place prior to the elementary return to full in-person learning. And regardless of the final date, we will communicate with parents as soon as possible so that they can begin the planning process. The details of the implementation of returning more secondary students to in-person instruction depend greatly on the number of families who elect to return their students to the building. With no change to the numbers of students coming in person, close to 6 feet of distancing is available in most, but not all classrooms. As more students elect to come back, classrooms move closer to the minimum of 3-foot distancing. The daily schedule will be similar to our typical high school schedule. However, the specific bell schedule will not be determined until the data from our family commitment questionnaire is received. The physical distance guidelines have been updated to reflect updated CCHD guidelines. These guidelines say that in-person learning is vital for children in all grade levels. The guidelines are also aligned with the CDC position statement that access to the vaccination should not be considered a condition for reopening schools for in-person instruction. The guidelines on the next slide reflect reduced physical distancing requirements that would place students at a distance of 3 feet or greater instead of the pre-existing 6 feet minimum based on community thresholds. This chart defines those thresholds using the table below. The following chart represents updated numbers from the CCHD as of last Friday, 2/26. You'll notice in Delaware County over a 7-day period, the most recent week, there was a positive case count of 654 cases and an incident rate per 100,000 of 115.40. At the most recent board meeting, the board approved a motion on elementary full in-person return. The motion read, the areas of the plan that allow for 3 foot of social distancing will take effect on March 18th if the 7-day COVID-19 incident rates in the county or district are less than 100 per 100,000. The district will review data on or about March 5th. If rates exceed these levels, the areas of the plan that allow for 3 foot of social distancing will take effect on April 5th, when the district will have its own operational COVID-19 testing program and data from multiple weeks of that program. This slide represents a process overview of the transition to full in-person learning at the high school. After receiving the results of the questionnaire, we will analyze the data in order to determine the best schedule, identify staffing and material needs, as well as look at transportation, food service, health and safety, arrival and dismissal, and lunch. Physical adjustments may need to be made based upon the number of students who decide to come back to full in-person learning. That full in-person learning will not occur until the elementary returns from their cohort model. This slide contains additional information that may be useful in making your decision. Classroom distance of student desks may be reduced to a minimum of 3 feet. The distance will vary depending upon the classroom. However, 6 feet will be maintained wherever possible. Again, this will be contingent upon the number of students who decide to return to full in-person learning. All students who select in-person learning will attend school on the same schedule during the same times during the school day. Students will still be required to be masked at all times, and if a mask needs to be removed to eat or for any other reason, students will need to maintain at least 6-foot distancing. Teachers will remain 6 feet from the students. All other current mitigation measures will remain in place. A new weekly testing program for staff will be in place before this implementation occurs. The online academy will remain in place for those that prefer to stay at home, and students making a change from online academy to in-person learning or from in-person learning to the online academy will not need to change teachers. A few notes on instruction. As with the hybrid model, teachers will be instructing both in-person and online students simultaneously. Online academy students and students who are homesick and/or quarantined will access instruction via Zoom, similar to the approach in the hybrid model. In-person students should continue to bring their charged Chromebook to class each day to access activities on Google Classroom as necessary. The current plan for Wednesday retains the asynchronous day. However, ongoing discussion regarding asynchronous Wednesdays continues. Wednesdays will continue to include time for student clubs, individualized support for online academy students, teacher collaboration, extra help, and IEP/504 meetings. It is expected that students who have signed up for in-person learning will make a consistent commitment to attend school regularly. Our plans strongly depend on adherence to family commitments. We want students to stay at home, however, if they feel ill or need to quarantine due to exposure. These students will attend class remotely via Zoom. Students who consistently miss in-person days without a medical reason may be moved to the online academy at administrative discretion. Spacing on buses could be affected by increased attendance to the in-person model. Transportation assignments may also change based upon current enrollment numbers. Parents are encouraged to drop off or pick up students if possible in order to increase available spacing on buses. Students will be distanced no less than 3 feet throughout the day. Targeted areas such as lunch, snack, and mask breaks will remain at 6 feet. Protocols are being revised to streamline the bus and car drop-off and pickup lines. Arriving students will wait for the school day to begin in the auditorium, gymnasium, cafeteria, and other locations, which all allow for 6 foot of distance. Assurance and diagnostic testing will be implemented with staff and specific student groups. The district will continue to contact trace. This slide represents updated quarantine procedures that were approved at the last school board meeting. Essentially, a 14-day quarantine has been reduced to 10 days if the person is symptom-free. Additionally, you can take a test no earlier than the 5th day, and with a negative result and no symptoms, end your quarantine at the end of the day on the 7th day. Quarantine begins after the date of the last exposure to a person with COVID-19. At no time can quarantine be discontinued before the end of day 7, even if a negative COVID-19 test result is received prior to the end of the day on day 7. Staff or students who live with individuals who work at healthcare or congregate care settings are not excluded from alternative quarantine periods. Only the individuals who work at these facilities are excluded from alternative quarantine periods. Next steps for you and your family. Please review the updated frequently asked questions that can be found on the reopening webpage of the school district website. Then please submit your family's commitment form, noting that once your family's commitment is submitted, changes will only be considered if space and staffing allow. You may also submit questions on the reopening page of the school district website. If you have additional questions, please contact a building administrator. Thank you for your time. Please let us know if you have any questions.